What's up, guys? So UFC 291 is this Sunday, and I'm going to be going through the whole card, giving my prediction and breakdown of every single fight on the card, as well as going through the betting odds and giving a bit of a breakdown of those, and overall just explaining my picks for the card and just kind of discussing this upcoming UFC 291 card and what I think is going to happen throughout. So starting off with the early prelim opener of Miranda Maverick versus Prasilla Cachoera. I'll be picking Miranda Maverick to win this fight by decision. It's women's MMA, so it's basically a coin flip. It's basically a toss-up. But if I had to pick between the two, I do believe that Miranda Maverick is just a little bit more skilled. I believe she's younger, and I believe she's got more to offer in her MMA game. You're going to look at the records of both 11 and 5 Miranda Maverick, 12 and 4 for Prasilla Cachoeira. Not too much to go off there. Miranda Mavericks beat Gillian Robertson. Cachoeira lost to Gillian Robertson. Miranda Maverick does also lost to Erin Blanchfield, Macy Barber, and Jasmine Jasdavicius. So none of those are bad losses by any means. Priscilla Cachoeira has lost to Gillian Robertson, Molly McCann. She's lost to Molly McCann. That's all you should need to know with this pick. I can't pick you if you've lost to Molly McCann because Molly McCann is terrible at fighting. She also did lose to Valentina Shevchenko. So there was a time when when she was good. That's not that time anymore, I don't believe. She's coming off a win over Ariane Lipsky. Decent win. But Miranda Maverick was ranked quite recently until she lost to Jasmine Jasdavicius. But overall, I don't think she's that bad of a fighter. It is women's MMA. It's a coin flip. Priscilla Cachoeira does have the power advantage. She's got 7 KOs out of her 12 finishes. I'll say out of her 12 wins, I would say. And Miranda Maverick has 6 submissions out of her 11 wins. So 2 finishes here. Miranda Maverick's going to be looking to get this one to the ground, take it down. Priscilla Cachoeira is going to look to knock her out on the feet and win there. She does obviously have a lot of success on the feet. As far as the lines go, Miranda Maverick's paying $1.30, Priscilla Cachoeira paying $3.55. I would absolutely not tell you at all to bet on this fight. It is women's MMA. It is a guess. But if you were enticed by that $3.55, I wouldn't blame you. So maybe a money line on Priscilla Cachoeira could be a thing to go for. But overall, I would say probably the over is the safer bet on this fight, but by no means a lock as well, because just the way the women's MMA goes, you never know. Priscilla Cachoeira could submit her, or Miranda Maverick could knock her out, even though that's the exact opposite things to what they do. But I'll be picking Miranda Maverick by decision. I just think she's a bit better, bit younger, faster, more kind of hungry, more agile, just like more youth on her to help her win this fight. But moving up the card, Mathew Semelsberger versus Uros Medic. Um, I'll be taking Mathew Semelsberger to win this fight, and I might just take him to win by knockout. He is paying $1.50 to Uros Medic, paying $2.60. Mathew Semelsberger 11 and 5 with 6 KOs. Uros Medic 8 and 1 with 6 KOs, but he is coming up from lightweight, and I'm not sure why. He's coming off a bit of a layoff. He's got a win over Omar Morales, but lost to Jalen Turner as well, so not that bad of a loss to have. Matthew Semelsberger coming off a close loss to Jeremiah Wells, which a lot of people thought he won. He looked really good in the stand-up in that fight, I'll say. And then before that, he had a really impressive win over Jake Mathews, who was seen as kind of this resurgent kind of prospect at the time, coming off a win over Andre Fiallo. And he looked really good in that fight. Shut him down, landed the big shots, and put him down in that fight and won a decision because of it. Um, I think Matthew Semelsberger is going to get a finish. He's a really powerful guy at the welterweight division. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's looked good in his last fights. Even the Jeremiah Wells fight, he got held down a lot, but he landed some big shots and he's got power for days. And I can see him putting down Uros Medic, who's coming up from lightweight, who got TKO'd by Jalen Turner. So I could see, or got finished by Jalen Turner. So I could see him landing a big shot on a chin of a lightweight who is not used to taking welterweight power, especially from someone like Matthew Semelsberger, who does hit very hard at welterweight. So, but apart from that, Semelsberger, close loss to Wells, he's lost to Alex Morono, win over Mathews. These aren't bad losses to have. As I said, Uros Medic lost to Jalen Turner is his major one. He's 8 and 1, so that's his only loss. Not a bad only loss to have. But I just think coming up from lightweight, I don't think it's going to go as well for him. And I think he's going to lose this fight by knockout. But Moving on, CJ Vegara versus Vinicius Salvador. Um, I'll be taking CJ Vegara in this matchup. I think he could get a finish as well. If you look at his record, 11-4, 7 KOs. In his last fight, he beat Daniel Da Silva, looked really good in that matchup. He fought through a bit of adversity early, but got a finish. And he's got toughness, which I really like, against Vinicius Salvador, who in his last few fights has shown some questionable decision making. Lost to Victor Altamirano. Um, got a win over Shannon Ross, but welcome to the club who hasn't beat Shannon Ross. If you can't beat Shannon Ross, you're nothing in the sport, respectfully. You look at the odds here, though. CJ Vergara paying $1.55. Vinicius Salvador paying $2.37. Not a fight I would touch on the money line. Um, but I am relatively confident in a CJ Vergara win. I think he's quicker. I think he's better on the feet. Um, I think he's better on the feet, and I think he's just like more hungry, and I think he's got that dog in him, which sounds a bit cringe to say, but I do think that's something that he possesses. When this matchup gets tough, I don't think Vinicius Salvador is going to do as well, biting down on the mouthpiece in the pocket if they get into a scrap. Um, I also do believe that CJ Vegara will have the cardio advantage. I think he's going to handle the altitude better at Salt Lake City here. I think Vinicius Salvador in his fight with Victor Altamirano, who just lost to Tim Elliott and got kind of proven to not be of ranked caliber. And he kind of just faded in that fight, wasn't able to put up as much of a fight as you'd want him to. So I do think he's going to lose this fight. I think Vegara's better, and I can see him getting a finish as well. His losses to Tatsuro Taira and a close loss to Ode Osborne, not a bad loss to have at all. Tatsuro Taira, very good prospect. But yeah, I think Vegara is getting a finish in this fight. But moving on up the card to the prelims, Jake Mathews versus Darius Flowers. I'll be picking Jake Mathews in this matchup. Haven't done a lot of research on Darius Flowers. I'll be completely honest. He's coming into the UFC off the Contender Series, I believe, or just coming into the UFC. No notable wins. He's 12-5. He's got 8 KOs, so he's a pretty big guy, pretty good finisher in his own right. But Jake Mathews, 18-6. He's got the experience. 7 submissions. He's definitely going to be looking to grapple this fight effectively. Got wins over Andre Fiallo, Diego Sanchez, Li Jingliang. Losses to Matthew Semelsberger, Sean Brady, and Kevin Lee are not bad losses to have on your resume. He's only paying $1.35. So with the kind of um, reoccurring theme that we've been seeing recently, I would not confidently tell you to bet on Jake Mathews. You could add him to a parlay if you're confident. I'm pretty confident in him winning, but just with the way these underdogs have been winning recently, and the way these short notice opponents have been kind of turning up and making life kind of hell for these top contenders or these better people that would normally beat them. Um, Jack Mathews was going to fight Miguel Beza, which is a much tougher opponent than Darius Flowers. So I do think he's going to win this matchup, depending on how tough Darius Flowers comes in or how ready he comes in for the altitude for the fight camp. This is very short notice. I could see Jack Mathews getting a finish. I know if he does get a finish, I would lean towards a submission. Darius Flowers paying at $3.33. Could chuck something on it if you wanted, if you're not that high on Mathews. Um, Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Mathews is some top 15 contender. He looked really good in the Fiallo fight, and I kind of got, as many people did, baited into thinking he was on this resurgence. He was going to be a top 15 guy. But his next fight, lost to Semelsberger, clearly just wasn't able to take those kind of shots. So I could see him having an issue with Darius Flowers' power, but he's never been finished on the feet. I don't believe. I don't think he rarely gets finished. It's last time he got finished was quite a while ago. Even in that Semelsberger fight, got knocked down twice. But if you look at that fight, he fought through it. He just made his way to a decision, and he was outstriking Matthew Semelsberger in that matchup, but was just getting caught at the wrong moments. So I think this time, I think he's not going to get caught as easily by Darius Flowers. I think he's going to be better conditioned being in training camp. Darius Flowers taking it on short notice. And I do think he's going to get a finish. So I'll go Jake Mathews by a round 3 submission. Um, but moving on up the card, Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro. I'll be taking Roman Kopylov in this matchup. I really like his stand-up, and I think he's really slick on the feet. And I think he's going to cause someone like Ribeiro, who kind of throws wild shots, and he's not always the most technical guy. I think Kopylov's going to cause him some issues on the feet. You look at Kopylov, 10-2, 9 of those KOs. Claudio Ribeiro, 11-3, 11 KO wins. So I do definitely see this fight getting finished. The fight to not go the distance, probably almost a lock, I would say. But again, with these big power punches, sometimes they fight each other and they just end up being tough and going the distance, or they're scared of each other's power and they have a stinker like Francis and Derrick Lewis. But I don't see that happening. I do think Roman Kopylov has an extremely significant edge when it comes to just the stand-up technique. If you're looking at just brute power, you could definitely lean with Claudio Ribeiro, and I wouldn't fault you for that. But I think Kopylov is just so much cleaner. He lands the kicks well, the good punch. He's got that Russian boxing style. Um, Coming off a win over Paulino Soriano, looked good in that matchup. TKO'd him with like kicks and with a kick to the body and then some punches. Looked really good in that matchup, which I picked him to win. He's lost to Albert Jurayev. It's not a terrible loss to have. I think that's a guy that Claudio Ribeiro would probably lose to as well. He beat Joseph Holmes. He lost to Abdul Razak Al Hassan on that same card where Roman Kopylov beat Paulino Soriano. So maybe something along those lines there with the matchmaking for this card. Two really exciting guys, two guys that look for the finish, and I think there definitely will be a finish. Fight to end by knockout, very likely in this one, but I think the finish is going to come on the side of Roman Kopylov. He's going to be more patient. He's not going to throw and rush in with the shots. Claudio Ribeiro, big guy, kind of muscle bound, tends to slow down a little bit in his fights. Kind of slowed down a bit in the Joseph Holmes fight. Put a lot of output into the grappling and the striking thongs and big shots, and was kind of being a bit more laboured in his movements as the fight went onwards, but ended up still getting the win. Looked good. That was on that UFC 288 card. So he has fought more recently, but I do believe that Roman Kopylov is just a better fighter, more technical on the feet, and I think he's going to get the win in this one. But moving on, up the card, Derrick Lewis versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Um, I'll be picking Derrick Lewis in this matchup. I've had a lot more to think about this fight. I picked him when this fight was made, when it was announced. I initially came to you and I said I like this for Derrick Lewis. Rogerio de Lima's fat, slow, not a good fighter. But now I've kind of thought about it, and Derrick Lewis is pretty much that same guy. These are both two guys that are really not at that top level. Derrick Lewis made it to the rankings based off kind of brute power and more toughness than anything. But I think if you look at his recent fights, I don't think you see that same kind of toughness. And I think he could struggle here in this matchup. That being said, I'm still going to pick him to win. I think he's going to get a knockout in this one. I'm just hoping. I really want to see him get a win. It's fun when Derrick Lewis gets a win because it's pretty much always a knockout. He's 26-11 with 21 KOs. He doesn't win fights by decision very much. Look at his record though. Like he's fought the who's who. He's beat Chris Daukaus, Curtis Blades, Alexei Olenek, Ali Latifi, Alexander Volkov, Francis Ngannou, Shamil Abdurrahimov, Marcin Tybura. Lost recently to Spivak, Gan, Ty, Pavlovich. He's got losses to DC, like those kind of guys. So he's fought fucking everyone at heavyweight. But Rogerio de Lima, experienced guy in his own right. 21-8 with 14 KOs. Win over World Orquez Acosta recently. Beat Andrei Arlovsky, but he has lost to Blagoy Ivanov and Alexander Romanov. The more shameful kind of loss there, in my opinion, to be respectful, is probably the Blagoy Ivanov loss, who is just not a guy that I like you losing to. Those are these kind of guys that Lewis kind of is somewhat losing to and then KOs. But Waldo Cortez Acosta, not that good of a fighter. He just kind of leg kicked him, and he does have good leg kicks. Rogerio de Lima's got some good leg kicks, which I can see being an issue in this fight. But I do trust Derrick Lewis to find that shot. I think um, I'm really struggling with this fight though. Like this is not a confident pick. Fight won't go the distance in my opinion, but Rogerio de Lima could kind of just out cardio him and then kind of just jab him at range and leg kick him for the next 10 minutes after probably a crazy first round. I can see if Derrick Lewis is going to win this fight, it's got to be by a first round KO. If not, I really don't see him. I don't see him getting the win in this one, which would be tough, and that would make it 4 losses in a row and 5 out of his last 6 losses, which would, I wouldn't say it would spell the end of his UFC career, but it would really start to cause some kind of looking at his career and be like, okay, Derrick, we're gonna give you the bottom of the barrel, and you got to get a win to keep your spot here because he was ranked number 5 like a year and a half ago, and now he's falling out of the rankings, fighting Marcos Rogerio de Lima. So it's kind of a sad slide for Derrick Lewis. He is he's an underdog in this matchup. He's paying $2.53. Sorry, Marcos Rogerio de Lima is paying $1.52. So he is a favorite in this one. I can see why. I think he is a better technical fighter. I think he's got the better grappling, but I just don't think the opponents that he's been fighting are of the level of a Spivak, of a Garn, of a Tai, of a Pavlovich. So I think Derrick Lewis, he's coming off a lot of losses, but you got to look at the guys that he's losing to, and they aren't bad fighters in any way. So I do believe that Lewis can catch that shot. I think the Lima he could be a bit kind of scared of the power here. He could be really tentative on the feet maybe. But his best kind of way to win is shoot early, get the takedowns, and try and grind him out and just gas Derrick Lewis out, who's never been known to have good cardio. But at altitude, I would expect him to get tired even quicker. But I'm hoping for a Derrick Lewis KO. I will pick him to win with extremely low confidence, and I will not come to you when this fight is done. If Derrick Lewis loses, I'm not going to be coming to you in this fight, so I'll be like, man, I was way off. Damn, I thought Lewis was going to smoke him. Like, picking Derrick Lewis to get a KO doesn't mean I think he's going to absolutely run through him. I think it just means he's going to catch him with a shot. He's caught Volkov with shots, like he's caught Blades with shots. He's caught guys with shots, and I think he can do the same thing to Marcos Rogerio de Lima, who's a lot more flat-footed, less rangy, less of a grappling pace than a Curtis Blades. So I think this does favour Derrick Lewis in terms of the ability to land the shot. I think Rogerio de Lima is a lot easier to land on than all these other guys, than a Volkov, than a Tai, than a Blades, than a Garn. So I think he can land a big shot in the first round and put Marcos Rogerio de Lima out cold and get a win by knockout. But moving on to the prelim headliner, Gabriel Bonfim versus Trevin Giles. I will be picking Gabriel Bonfim in this matchup. It's kind of self-explanatory. Pretty much everyone's picking him. He's the kind of prospect on the come up out of the Bonfim brothers. He's the one that a lot of people were more high on. He's 14-0 undefeated. Got a 49 seconds guillotine win over Munho Lazez in his debut at UFC 283 on the Brazil card. Looked pretty good. Threw a little bit wild on the feet, which does worry me, but I do think those are more just debut nerves rather than a lack of skill. I think if you look at his fights outside the UFC, very skilled guy. 11 submissions out of 14 wins. Very impressive from him. Got a win over Trey Waters as well on the Contender Series, I believe it was. He's only paying $1.30 in this matchup, though. Trevin Giles paying $3.55. So with what we just saw with Ishmael Bonfim losing to Bernard Saint Denis, don't throw down money on the Bonfim side, I wouldn't say. And I wouldn't say throw down on the Trevin Giles side, but I just want to read you this guy's record. 16-4, pretty average, but listen to this. Okay, winner of Preston Parsons. Okay. He's beat Delidzi. He's beat James Krause, Ryan Spann, Brendan Allen. Yeah, like that's crazy. Loses to Michael Morales, Dricus Duplessis, Gerald Mearshut, and Patrick Cummins. Or sorry, Zach Cummins, my bad. Um, he's fought a lot of good guys. Like wins over Ryan Spann is ridiculous. This fight's at welterweight. He's got a win over the number 9 ranked light heavyweight Ryan Spann, which is absolutely crazy to say. Wins over middleweights. Got KO'd by Dricus Duplessis, but look where Dricus is now. So I would not be surprised if Trevin Giles is actually like pretty decent. Like he beat Preston Parsons, not crazy, but like beating Roman Dolidze is extremely impressive. He's got 6 KOs, 5 subs on his record out of his 16 finishes. So a pretty well-rounded guy, has shown the ability to get it done anywhere. But I do think, that being said, I'll sing his praises, but I do think Gabriel Bonfim's going to get this one done. Significant grappling advantage. He's going to be looking to take this one to the mat. And I think he'll get it there, and I think he'll get a submission pretty early in the first or second round. But credit to Giles, he's fought some really good guys. But moving on up the card, to the main card, and we're going to open with Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. There's a main card opener. Sorry, never mind. It started as the main card opener. I was thinking that it might have got bumped up because Costa and Aliskerov got cancelled, but it didn't. Michael Chiesa coming off a pretty long layoff. I think his last win was against Sean Brady, I believe. He had a fight cancelled against Li Jing Liang. He's fought a few other guys there. Like he's obviously fought quite a lot of guys. Fought like Kevin Lee, Magny, all those kind of guys. Kevin Holland, though, been a lot more active fighter. Coming off the good win, KO win over Santiago Ponzinibbio. Before that, lost to fucking hell. Was Stephen Thompson, lost to Wonderboy Thompson. Broke his hand in that fight. And then it was a TKO doctor stoppage, or corner stoppage in the fourth round. So that was a tough loss for him, but he did kind of look alright in that fight. He had some moments. He cracked Wonderboy early, and then before that, lost to Hamzat. He beat who did he fucking beat? Tim Means. He beat Tim Means on the Cater vs Emmett card. Got some other good wins. Beat Cowboy Oliveira, or Alex Oliveira, my bad. So yeah, Kevin Holland's got some good wins. He's got a significant striking advantage in this one, and I think that's where he's got to get it done. I do think he's going to win this fight by knockout, or by TKO, I would say. Michael Chiesa, I just don't think he's a full-time fighter anymore. I think he's got his job at the desk, the UFC desk, and I think he's kind of set. I don't think he's focusing on his career as much, and I think he's kind of just taking fights similar to a situation with Dominic Cruz, where they've got the job on the desk, they're analysts, but they're also kind of fighting, and they take fights every kind of 9 months or every year to just kind of keep their names in the mix and kind of get people talking about them and make themselves relevant. Because as soon as they stop fighting, it's just going to be like this guy at the desk, former number 11 ranked UFC welterweight Michael Chiesa, big deal. But current UFC welterweight talking about the division, like that's kind of something where you can get out of it. So I think that's kind of why he's sticking around. I don't think he's really that hungry in his career anymore. He's clearly not in title contention. Kevin Holland, he's always kind of I don't think he's in title contention either, but and I think he knows it too. But I think he's more motivated. He likes going out there, putting on a show for the fans, talking some trash, and I think he's gonna stuff the takedowns, or I think he's gonna scramble well with Michael Chiesa. I think people forget he did get kind of steamrolled by Hamzat in a round, but if you look at that fight, instant takedown, and he actually had some decent scrambles, some good Granby rolls in that fight, and kind of held off the submission attempt for a little bit. Michael Chiesa is not the same kind of dominating wrestler that Hamzat Chimaev is. He's not so quick and fast, which is a lot more plodding, a lot slower, and kind of methodical when he takes you to the ground, kind of settles in close guard and tries to kind of wet blanket you. Hamzat's just going all steam ahead trying to get a finish. So I do think Kevin Holland is going to scramble, and I think he's going to crack Chiesa on the feet. He's going to have a big reach advantage. Kevin Holland's got a massive reach for the welterweight division, and I think he's just got that pop on the end of his shots that's going to cause Chiesa problems. I can see him catching him in the first, maybe putting him down. Chiesa kind of survives. Holland doesn't want to go to the ground with him too much because he doesn't want to get tangled up on the ground. But I think in the second or third, I've picked him by third round TKO as my official call. I think he's going to land a big shot, maybe intercept a takedown, catch him with a big cross and put him out. So I think Kevin Holland's going to win this fight. But moving on, up the card, Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. So I just wanted to mention one more thing. $1.64 on Holland, $2.27 on Chiesa. Not a fight I would bet on. But moving on to Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. I'll be taking Bobby Green in this matchup. He's big favourite, pretty clearly. Ferguson's paying $3.80. Bobby Green's paying $1.27. I think most people, logically, you kind of got to go with Bobby Green in this matchup. If you look at his recent fights, looked pretty average against Jared Gordon. Got KO'd by Drew Dober, but was looking good in the first 2 rounds of that matchup, or the first round of that fight. He's fought Fazeev pretty well. Lost to Makachev. He's fought some pretty good guys. He's always kind of been able to hang in that kind of 15 to 25 area, and he's just a pretty solid fighter. And it's ridiculous to say because Tony Ferguson, not that long ago was fighting for an interim belt, and then lost to Justin Gaethje in 2020. Um, Now just 3 years later, and he's fallen outside the rankings fighting Bobby Green, and people are talking about if he loses this fight, he's going to get cut from the UFC. It's been a really kind of sad fall for Tony Ferguson, but I think it's going to be a sad fall that continues, and I think he's going to stick around longer than he should have, and I think he's already done that. I don't think this sport's got any place for Ferguson anymore right now. It's got a he's got a place in the Hall of Fame without a doubt. He's one of the kind of pioneers of the lightweight division, one of the guys that held it on its back when Connor was away, when Khabib was missing weight and pulling out of fights. He's the guy that kind of revived it and beat Kevin Lee for the interim title. Um, like put beatings on people. Came back after a terrible knee injury in like 5 months, and went to war with Anthony Pettis. Stopped Donald Cerrone. Like he's had some he put an absolute masterclass over RDA at altitude in Mexico City. Like he's had some amazing moments in his career, but he's had some bad moments too, and the bad moments have all been the recent moments. Looking at his last fight, Nate Diaz fight, he looked absolutely terrible. He looked slow. He looked like he had no power. He looked like he really had absolutely nothing. He was just kicking Nate Diaz's legs, and that was about all he had. Now I do hope that another thing happens is what we saw when he came back from the Beneil Dariush fight to the Chandler fight. He looked kind of revived. He looked quicker. Um, he looked like he had some pop on his shots. He looked hungry. And he dropped Chandler in the first round in that matchup. But he turned around in 2 months and he lost to or 3 months and he lost to Nate Diaz and he looked absolutely terrible. So maybe coming back 10 months later, layoff, he's going to be more hungry, going to have that thrive back and be better. But I just don't see it happening. I think Bobby Green's quicker. He's more powerful on the counters. The one thing Ferguson could have is the cardio. I would say that's his thing to go with here. Maybe Bobby Green will gas at altitude. Um, but we just even haven't seen that. Like that Diaz fight wasn't even at a high pace, and he wasn't looking the best in that matchup, even in the cardio department. He wasn't even throwing with power or that much speed, and he was still kind of slowing down. Um, so I really just don't like how Tony Ferguson's career is going right now. I think he should have called it after the Diaz fight. I think that would have been a perfect moment to call it. Don't get me wrong. I hope he wins. I love Tony Ferguson. I'm a big fan of him. He's had some great moments in his career, as I said. But I think Bobby Green's just got all the advantages here, and I think he's going to just kind of catch him at the end of all these shots, and he's going to just put a bad kind of beating on him to a 3 round decision or maybe a late TKO. And I want Tony Ferguson to retire if he does lose, and if he does win as well. So it's tough for Ferguson, but I think he's going to lose this matchup. But moving on, up the card, Stephen Thompson versus Michel Pereira. This one is very exciting, and I'm going to be picking Stephen Thompson in this matchup. He's paying $1.67. Michel Pereira's paying $2.31. And I think for good reason. Stephen Thompson on the feet is as good as anyone in the welterweight division, I believe. I think you put him against Leon Edwards right now on the feet, and I honestly think he makes it competitive. If you put him in as just a pure stand-up fight with anyone in the UFC right now or in the welterweight division, I think he's coming out probably with a win or maybe with a very solid close decision loss. Michel Pereira is way too wild, way too just odd, and gasses out way too easily, throwing all this output for me to trust him in this matchup at altitude as well. Stephen Thompson, we've seen him recently. The last fight against Kevin Holland looked really good at 40 years of age, I believe. Looks as good as ever. So really impressed with him. And I just think he's just got all the weapons. He's got all the advantages here. Maybe bar the grappling. I think Michel Pereira would be wise to look to grapple in this fight. I think that's where he's got to win this one. Just use his strength and try and grapple Stephen Thompson. But if you look at the fights where Stephen Thompson has been grappled, he doesn't often get submitted or finished. Like he fought Bilal, but kind of just controlled and dominated to a decision. Fought Gilbert Burns, kind of was able to get up in moments, was able to kind of cause Burns some problems, and Burns had wanted nothing on the feet with that fight. So on the feet, I think he tears Pereira apart. I think the kicks, the side kicks, the high kicks, the leg kicks, spinning kicks, everything. He's just so good with the range management, and he's going to cause Pereira major issues. Pereira's just got to look to kind of get in close grapple, and just use his power. But he's taken like his last 5 opponents to a decision. So he looks like a guy that would hit like a truck, and I'm sure he does. But he just isn't the best at finding the shot to put you down. Look at that Santiago Ponzinibbio fight. Made it really close, and Santiago Ponzinibbio just lost and got TKO'd by Kevin Holland, who obviously fought Stephen Thompson and lost by fourth round TKO. So I just don't think this matchup's got many favourable outcomes for Michel Pereira. I think he's gonna approach it how he always does because I think he's lacking in the fight IQ department. Um, I think he's going to kind of come in throwing his weird shit, big kicks and stuff. Well, like when Stephen Thompson throws some like things that look high energy and high output, but he never gasses because that's what he's used to. Michel Pereira just does all this random shit, kind of runs after you, gets super excited and kind of barged up, and then he just never gets to finish, and I think it gasses him out. You look at a fight earlier in his career, he was doing backflips, Superman punches off the cage, and he gassed and ended up losing a decision. So I really don't like the way he approaches fights, and I think Stephen Thompson, with the veteran savviness, is just going to kind of um, put it on him and just land the kicks. I think I could see him getting a TKO if Michel Pereira is just super exhausted. But I do think more likely decision on verdict. I'll probably pick him to get third round TKO because that'll be giving out a lot more points. But $1.67 on the betting lines, I don't mind it at all. Not like a 100% confidence pick like this will happen, but I think you got to look at the matchup and kind of just say, um, Pereira's not like technically better anywhere. He's kind of got just brute strength, power, and even submission wise, he doesn't get a lot of them. I think his last finish was a submission, but over no one the caliber of Stephen Thompson. So I think on the feet he's just going to be in so much trouble, and I don't think he's going to have anything for Stephen Thompson, and I think he's going to just lose this fight quite easily. Um, but moving on to the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. This is a massive fight in the light heavyweight division, title eliminator, winner fights Zero Prohaska. That's basically the unconfirmed vibe here is what we're getting. Um, Jan Blachowicz, he's got to grapple here, and if he doesn't grapple, he's going to lose. Um, as far as the prediction goes, I've thought about this for quite a while. I've watched their fights, and when these news came to you, when I came to you guys with this news, and I said this is the card, this is amazing. I gave you my predictions, fucking 2 months ago, when I had brown hair and I looked like a mop. That's how long ago that shit was. Well, it wasn't that long ago, but I came to you and I said Jan Blachowicz is going to win this fight through the grappling. Pereira's terrible at grappling. He's going to get taken down easily. He's taking too much. Is too quick of a turnaround coming for KO loss. And look, I still do believe all of those things. If I'm being completely honest, I still do think all of those things hold up and are real worries. Real worries when it comes to this matchup. But I'm just thinking, and I'm hearing Blachowicz talk. I'm hearing him say, "Oh, we're here 2 weeks early to get adjusted for the altitude." I'm hearing him say, "Pereira's a really good stand-up fighter, so I want to test my stand-up with him. And if things go badly, then I'll wrestle." Um, and I absolutely hate that when I'm hearing that. So I'm going to lean with Alex Pereira, guys. I'm going to pick Alex Pereira to get a knockout in the first round. And the reason why is because Jan Blachowicz, despite fucking up Magomed Ankalaev's legs and having him on skates in that fight, the hands just don't look the same anymore. He hasn't been catching people with the big shots on the feet. If you look at that, like Ankalaev fight before that, he fought Rakic. Before that, he lost to Glover, I believe. Before that, he beat Izzy, which was a really impressive win, but that was in 2020, I believe, or maybe early 21. Um, so I just don't. It was 2020, guys. So that was quite a while ago, and I just don't see him being that same guy anymore, to be honest. I think if you look at him, even if you look at his physique and his body, he just looks like he's becoming older. Not does he looks like he doesn't look like an old man like Tony Ferguson, who looks like he's got no business in the cage. He's still a top contender, and I still think he beats a lot of the guys in that division. But just on the feet, this is just nightmare for him with Alex Pereira. Um, Nightmare with Alex Pereira on the feet. Pereira's so much quicker coming up from middleweight. He's going to have the chin's going to be refreshed. I think he's going to have better cardio as well. I think he's going to be stronger physicality-wise, I think he's going to be able to hold up with Jan very well. And even if you look at some of his fights, he has stuffed takedowns. It's not like he's got this 0% takedown. Not like he's got this 0% takedown defense rate, and he just gets taken down by scrubs. Like Andreas Michailidis, he stuffed a few of his takedowns. He did get taken down in that matchup. Stuffed Bruno Silva's takedown attempts. Sean Strickland didn't shoot him at all because he's a retard. Like Adesanya, that's the one the people. That's the reason why people are like, oh, he's gonna get smoked in the grappling if Adesanya took him down. I think more than anything, that was just lapses of judgment and just dumb decision making, to be honest. And I think working with Glover, who's beat Jan Blachowicz, I think he's so hungry in this career still. He knows he can really get a belt. And I think Blachowicz looked at his last fight, fought Ankalaev to a draw, and was like, yeah, I can do well, but I don't think he cares as much as Alex Pereira. So I think he's going to get caught on the way in by a big shot, and I think Pereira's going to put him down and out and win this fight and fight Yuri for the belt, and I think he's going to beat him too. So yeah, but moving on to the main event of the evening, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, the rematch for the BMF title. I'm so excited for this one. I'm hyped for this fight. Um, and I'm picking Justin Gaethje. I am picking Justin Gaethje, guys, and I've got quite a few reasons why. First of all, if you look at that first fight, Gaethje was having a lot of success with a lot of things, and I think the reason why he was getting caught was less because Poirier was just so much better than him, and more because Gaethje was being kind of autistic. He was being a bit of a tard, suffering from the tism, you would say, and just not making good decisions in that fight. He was throwing leg kicks with his hands down. He was getting cracked. That's how he ended up getting finished in that matchup. Um, but I think since then he's night and day a better fighter. He's so much. His style is just so different. You look at Poirier, then same kind of style: boxer, volume, granite chin. Will kind of go in the pocket, trade shots with you. Got the throw the calf kick out there, and that kind of vibe. And he stayed the same. Dustin Gaethje has turned from this kind of rock'em sock'em fucking robot, um, get knocked down, like knock out or get knocked out trying kind of vibe. And he's turned into a technical fighter that fights behind a jab, that throws technical shots, throws uppercuts with real technique instead of just swinging for the fences. Instead of just spamming leg kicks, he actually sets them up and lands them with power. Um, and he mixes in the wrestling as well. We saw that with Rafael Fiziev. Um, so I think he's got just so many options to win this fight. I think Poirier, yes, is probably the better boxer. Pure technique, better boxer. Gaethje, I do believe, has the power. Poirier's got the better chin. Gaethje can mix in the grappling as well, which I do think is something that I don't think Poirier's going to have been preparing for that much. No doubt he's preparing for all outcomes, but I do think that Justin Gaethje, like if you look at that physique fight, he slowed it down really well. His cardio holds up. That's another big thing. The cardio of these two guys, I do think is what's going to cause this matchup. Justin Gaethje trains at team elevation at altitude in Denver, Colorado, which is actually higher than Salt Lake City, Utah. Higher altitude than Salt Lake City, Utah. So he's going to be more than prepared. He's gone five before. He's gone at a high pace. He's fought for Zeev in London recently, and I just think he's more hungry in his career, guys. I think Poirier, he's got a kid. He's had his money. He's fought Conor 3 times. Twice he's made that big money from Conor. Fought for belts, as has Gaethje, but um, if you listen to how he talks, he's just like, "Oh, I only take fights here in this time period so that my daughter can go to school." And fair play to him, he's a family man. I'm sure he's a great guy. But as a professional fighter and currently the number 2 ranked lightweight in the world, you do have to be selfish at sometimes. And like, he's not fighting often. Like, Gaethje hasn't been extremely active. Like Gaethje fought Oliveira last May and then Fiziev in March, but now he's turning back around in July. Poirier fought last November, so not a ridiculous amount. But before that, it was a whole year layoff. It was December against Oliveira. Before that, it was the Conor fights. Before that, it was the Dan Hooker fight. Before that, some other fights there. I think Poirier's made his money. He's not poor anymore. You could say that was a horrible joke, my bad. But I think he's less hungry in his career. I think he's still gonna come with fire and just come for a war. But I think he's kind of treating this fight more as like a fun BMF title fight. This will be great with Justin Gaethje. Have another scrap. I reckon I'll beat him. But I think Gaethje's really kind of looking at himself and going, he's so much better, guys. If you look at, I just want to reiterate this. If you look at how much better Gaethje is today to how he was then compared to how much better Poirier is, Poirier is a lot better too, don't get me wrong. He's got more power on his shots. He's more technical, more defensively sound. But Gaethje is just so much better. You don't see Gaethje getting absolutely just rocked all over the place. He got dropped by Oliveira. That's a fight where he kind of went back to how he used to fight. He was over swinging, kind of reckless in that matchup. But um, you look at the Michael Chandler fight, you look at the Fizzy fight, those are two fights that he fought pretty much perfectly. He obviously got baited into the ball a little bit with Chandler and got rocked a bit. But he landed a big uppercut. I think uppercuts are going to be a big thing on Poirier, who his defense is kind of reliant on this shelling up, like kind of Philly shell here, like covering up, rolling with shots, and I think uppercuts up the middle, hooks around the guard, and leg kicks are going to be open when Poirier shells up in that Philly shell, and kind of tries to throw back. Um, yeah, that Philly shell up here, this leaves you open. Like this is a guard that can work for headshots, but it leaves you open to the body. It leaves you open to leg kicks, and it leaves you open to shots up the middle, coming up with those uppercuts. Gaethje's going to rock him down, and I think he's going to put him away in the second or third round and claim the BMF belt. Which I think, if you look at the two of them, I do have to say Gaethje, in my opinion, respectfully, more of a BMF than Poirier. I think he's the guy that this belt's kind of just made for at lightweight. No doubt, Poirier BMF gets into wars, goes to war with the best of them, but something about this belt just screams Justin Gaethje to me, and I just got the vibe that he's taken this one home. I don't think he wins an undisputed world title. He's got an interim belt on his wall. So does Dustin Poirier, but I think he's the guy that if you're going to say BMF of the lightweight division. Even if Poirier wins this, Gaethje's still like that guy. I don't think this fight means if Poirier wins that he's more like of a bad motherfucker than Justin Gaethje. I think Gaethje's the way he comes to fight, his attitude of like just bonuses 24/7 every single time. Um, and I just think he's going to win this matchup. The big shots are going to be landed obviously by both. Dustin Poirier is going to crack him, no doubt. But Gaethje is going to absolutely fuck up his legs again. He had so much success with the leg kick in the first fight. Poirier's legs afterwards, he said he tore his quad. His legs were purple after that fight. He could barely stand, and the tide was turning in that matchup. Poirier ended up winning. He won the first two. The third round, Gaethje won, but I think a point got deducted for an eye poke. And then the fourth round, Poirier got the finish. But Gaethje threw an open leg kick, left himself up and got cracked on the chin. I don't see that happening again. Gaethje hasn't been getting cracked nearly as much in his recent fights, and that Fizzy fight just impressed me so much. Um, it was just so patient, so technically sound. Threw when he needed to throw, defended when he needed to defend, and just showed real fight IQ in that matchup. Rafael Fizzy, if you guys were saying was going to whoop him, me included, I thought he was going to lose that fight. I thought coming off the Oliveira fight, I'm like, this guy's not that good. He's kind of brawling. He's lost all his technique. Fizzy's going to crack him and put him away. But he proved me wrong, and he came on in the later rounds after that speed had gone from Rafael Fizzy. And again, I just want to reiterate, the cardio is a big factor. And when you're at altitude, when you're at high elevation, um, the guy with the better cardio is just going to run away with the fight, and it's a lot harder to make a momentum change and kind of turn the fight around back your way once you're already down. I think Poirier is going to win the first round. I do believe that. But Gaethje is going to come on strong. I think Poirier is going to start to get affected by the elevation, and he's going to realize pretty quickly that coming there 2 weeks early and sleeping in a oxygen tent is not going to help you prepare for 5 rounds of war against Justin Gaethje, who trains at Team Elevation. I think he's going to be way more prepared, and I just think he wants this belt. I think this belt belongs to him, in my opinion, and I do see him getting a third round TKO is going to be my official call. I don't see him putting away Poirier like out cold, because Poirier's got a granite chin. He's got a diamond's chin, you would say. Um, but I think Gaethje's just going to land the better shots. I think he's going to be more patient, Poirier's going to be a bit more technical, but I think Gaethje's defense is so much better. I don't see him getting absolutely cracked. You look at Poirier's recent fights as well. The Chandler fight, to me, he got the finish, but I don't rate it as highly. I think even though he got a finish and Gaethje didn't, I rate Gaethje's performance against Chandler higher than Poirier did, because Poirier, he won a minute of that fight. it went like 13 minutes and he won a minute of it. That sounds ridiculous to say, but he won the last 30 seconds of the first round and he won the last 30 seconds of the fight. He won the last 30 seconds of the first round when Chandler was rushing in like a tard with his hands down and got cracked and then was getting teed off on at the end of the round. And then he won the last 30 seconds of the fight again when Chandler was a tard, overcommitted on a takedown, and was just trying to like do some WWE shit and pound him through the canvas. And then Poirier just ended up just scrambling with actual grappling skill instead of Chandler, who was just trying to brute force it. Ended up on his back and submitted him. So really good. That was a good win from Poirier. Before that, the Oliveira win, long layoff. So a lot less to go off there. If you look at the performance, you can say obviously Poirier did better against Oliveira, but something about it, I just really got to say Gaethje is winning in my opinion. I think I see a lot of people picking Poirier, and as a $1.66 favorite, I don't think that's a confident and wise bet to make. I wouldn't bet you to, I wouldn't tell you to bet on this fight, and I wouldn't even tell you to bet on like the don't go the distance because I could see them just going to war and going 25 minutes with granite chins each of them. But something about it, I just do think Justin Gaethje is going to come away with this one. Um, but that's the video, guys. Those are the predictions. I just want to give a brief kind of shout out or a brief just kind of memo or something towards the fact that the first video on this channel, 2 and a bit months ago, I think it was like May 12th, I believe, when these announcements came out. That was my first video on the channel. I had this long mop of hair. I was talking softly. I was kind of shy. I didn't really know what I was saying. I was just trying to kind of put forward my kind of opinions about MMA and discuss the excitement that I felt. But I listened back to that video just earlier today, and I sounded like extremely kind of I can't really bring you the word, but just reserved, not like speaking with energy. I was like, and Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. I sounded like that. And now I'm talking with energy. I'm a lot more confident speaking in front of a camera, despite the horrible quality. I do apologize for that. That's going to be fixed pretty shortly. I'm going to get an actual camera. I'm recording on my fucking laptop right now, guys. But I don't know why I said that. But I just really appreciate. I know I don't have a lot of people watching this video. My like highest video, 160 views. To me, that's amazing because this first video I uploaded on this channel got like 50 odd views eventually. Across like more than that amount of days, like less than a view a day. And not to kind of complain or anything. Like I know it takes time and it's a process, but um whoever is watching these videos, whoever is subscribed to this channel and watching consistently and actually taking what I have to say and enjoying the information or enjoying the opinions that I'm putting out, I do really appreciate you guys and sticking with it. And I'm going to keep making these videos because I just love the sport of MMA and I'm going to love this card this weekend, as I'm sure everyone else is going to as well. But just thanks for that, guys. Those are the predictions. Main card, I'll just refresh it. Kevin Holland to win by TKO, Bobby Green to win by TKO or decision, Stephen Thompson by TKO or decision, Alex Pereira by KO, and Justin Gaethje by TKO are the official predictions. I will release them on my Instagram, the final full card picks on that official picture on the Saturday. If any pick changes, I'm not going to make any probably, but if I see something drastic, I might make a pick change. But again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, which will be the full card recap and reaction. So peace.